Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Now for day, the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing is now called to order. For the record, today is Monday, May 17th. The time now is 9:02. Notice for this budget hearing was disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. First public notice was issued on May 10th, then on May 13th, and today is now May 17th. The committee will hear and accept testimonies on Bill 55-36 COR, the fiscal year 2021 Appropriation Act as requested by the Governor, relative to the Guam Community College, fiscal year 2022 budget request. Joining me for this budget hearing is, first, we have the Committee Oversight Chair, Senator Amanda Sheldon, Vice Speaker Tina Rose Munoz-Barnes. We have Senator Chris Duenas, Senator Mary Torres, Senator Tony Ada, and Senator Tello Taitigui. Where's that? Oh, I didn't notice him. Okay, Senator Jim, thank you for joining us. The budget hearing, the rules of engagement, my colleagues, those testifying on behalf and for all members that are on the panel, those testifying on behalf of Bill 55-36 COR relative to Guam Community College are invited to the panel. They are Chairman Frank Arreola, we have Dr. Mary Okada, Rodolin Gerardo, and I think that's Mr. Tadella, right? Yeah. Okay. Just looking at the penmanship, but I understand. Written testimony shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide my legislative staff with your written testimony for photocopying. Testimony may be read, and then the testimony should be summarized to about 5 minutes. But Dr. Carter and Mr. Chairman, I allow you the additional time you need. All right? Those testifying will be allowed to present oral testimony. Once you are done, please remain in the room for questions or for additional testimony as may be desired by the members of the committee. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance of the hearing, which is your budget. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of the general rule of conduct will result in removal from the budget hearing by myself. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum may be restricted from providing oral testimony and or may be asked to leave or be escorted from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on, that you speak into the microphone. For the purpose of these budget hearings or future budget hearings, I would advise all my colleagues that we will have rounds of questions. For this budget hearing, today's budget hearing, we will not have rounds of questions. We just allow the questions to be asked to the appropriate agency. Are there any other questions? May be submitted to the committee for submission to the agency or department for response. If there's any additional questions that the agency cannot provide an answer, we would be submitting you a list of questions. All right? And then you state your name and your title for the record. At this time, I ask the panel for the Guam Community College to rise and for our Sergeant Arms to please swear them in.
Kindly raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, you will affirm that any and all information that you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Mr. Chair, under oath, you may proceed.
Thank you, Sergeant Arms. I now ask, I don't know if it would be the chairman or the president. The chairman will first begin with the discussion of the budget. And you did, if I'm correct, you did submit a testimony. So if you like, you can read it, sir.
Testing, 1, 2. Good. Good morning, Chairman Agustin and members of the Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriations, and Housing. My name is Frank P. Arreola, and I am the Chairman of the Guam Community College Board of Trustees. Thank you for allowing us to come before you to testify on behalf of the students, faculty, and staff regarding GCC's funding requirements for fiscal year 2022. Guam Community College has earned a reputation for our judicious use of the public funds entrusted to us. In fact, the GCC team, under the leadership of Dr. Okada, is to be commended for receiving our 20th consecutive clean audit, an achievement that is unmatched within the government of Guam. As unique as an achievement as this has been, what I believe is equally remarkable is GCC's ability to effectively respond to the needs of our island community. In response to rising demand in the construction and ship repair industries, the college responded by standing up pre-apprenticeship boot camp to quickly train participants in the basic construction trades and soft skills needed in both industries. To date, 60 individuals have completed the ship repair boot camps and were employed by Cabras Marine Corporation. We are now in the process of standing up the 4th ship repair boot camp. And as we speak, GCC is hosting the completion ceremony for the 2nd construction trades boot camp. We also just completed our 2nd truck driving boot camp to address the critical shortage in commercial truck drivers across several industries, including wholesale distribution and construction. During this past year, GCC stood up a temporary nursing assistant program boot camp that took 23 of the 29 participants from training to working on the front lines of COVID-19. Fight within 2 weeks. Like ship repair, we are also preparing to launch a secondary temporary nursing assistant program boot camp. But our efforts do not end there. We are planning and designing boot camps for information technology, home health care, medical coding, and billing. We are exploring other high demand areas, including unexploded ordnance, technician, and hope to engage in a partnership in the upcoming weeks. As a member of the business community, it is refreshing to see the efforts that are being done to upskill and retool individuals of our community. We consistently request for the feedback necessary to guide the needed occupational areas. GCC is also hosting the first pandemic certification training course on Guam. Paramedic certification training course on Guam for the Guam Fire Department personnel. There are currently 33 firefighters enrolled in this program and expected to complete by August of this year. This program will significantly increase advanced life support, saving many more lives than we are able to save today. On the academic side, we have been equally busy. This year, we launched our new Bachelor's of Science, Career, and Technical Education. And we recently received approval to offer our first distance education program in international hotel management. The forensic DNA lab construction is 50% complete. The new multi-purpose auditorium, which will allow GCC to connect more directly with our community through events and other community outreach efforts, is at 81% completion, and this is construction. The Guam Community College fiscal year 2022 budget request is $20,833,797. This represents less than a 1.9% increase over the FY21 appropriation level. GCC is working ferociously to stand up training and educational programs to train and upskill Guam's workforce. which has been adversely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The budget request will support the programs above and allow us to continue innovating and collaborating with our community partners to strengthen Guam's workforce. Given all that I have mentioned, I am confident that this budget request of $20,833,797 is sufficient to move the college forward, while simultaneously being fiscally responsible and conservative given the government of Guam's current fiscal challenges. I thank you for the opportunity to appear before the committee this morning and testify in favor of the fiscal year 2022 budget requests for the Guam Community College. Si Diyos Masi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Okada, ma'am.
Buenas and happy days, Mr. Chairman, Senator San Agustin. To Speaker Talahi, thank you very much for being here. Vice Speaker Munya Barnes, Si Diyos Masi, our committee chair, Senator Amanda Shelton, Senator Chris Duenas, Senator Tony Atta, Senator Tello Taitagui, Senator Mary Torres, Senator Jim Smoylan. Si Diyos Masi for your attendance today. Si Diyos Masi for this wonderful opportunity to begin the fiscal year 2022 budget hearings by advocating for the Guam Community College, a leader in career and technical workforce development, providing the highest quality student-centered education and job training for Micronesia. I have had the distinct honor of presenting GCC's budget for the past 15 years, and I want to thank all of you for your continued support through the years. As we begin to emerge from this pandemic, I often think of what the reimagined GCC would look like. Our role in our community has been increasingly important, and residents are beginning to realize that the college plays a pivotal role in guiding through successful ventures, careers, and economic sustainability. For the past several months, you have witnessed some innovative successes on how GCC has packaged training programs to support our industry needs, while seeking to find individuals interested in pursuing training through the various boot camps or in our secondary or post-secondary programs. You have heard some amazing inspirational stories of where folks were to where they are today and where they are headed now. It is my hope that these stories permeate throughout our community to highlight that with determination, commitment, and perseverance, they can avail of something spectacular and life-changing and begin to tell their story. I've had the honor of meeting with all of you to discuss the GCC's fiscal year 22 budget these past several weeks. I want to thank you once again for your time and your thoughts on what we have presented, your ideas in some areas that we should consider. But most importantly, your support for our budget submission today. And as I mentioned I would do, our budget as adjusted. The adjusted budget request for fiscal year 2022 is $20,833,797. I truly believe that it is because of our great partnership that we have all contributed to continued success at the college. Let me provide an overview of the funding that the college has received from various federal sources. There are three major components: CARES for student aid funds, CARES for institutions of higher education relief funds, and CARES for minority-serving institutions. To date, the college has received student aid funds in the amounts of $575,675 distributed to students in spring 2020, $440 for full-time students and $220 for part-time students. An additional $574,675 distributed to students in spring 2021, $600 for full-time students and $300 for part-time students. In addition, we recently received an additional $2,895,102 that will be distributed in the upcoming semesters. The amount available as of May 14, 2021 is $2,895,102 recently received. From the Institution of Higher Education Relief Funds, the college received $574,675, $2,728,766, and $2,895,100. All of these funds have been used to support laptops, and we've purchased 200 so far for a student loaner program, instructional technology for mirrored classrooms, laptops and distance education certification for faculty, PPEs, and the recent hire of our instructional designer to support our distance education courses. Future plans include the replacement of air conditioners, air purifiers, and a minor renovation to expand the footprint in our automotive classroom. Finally, we were awarded $16,361 in CARES for minority serving institution funding. This funding was used to support 100 MiFis for students through May 2021. We will be reactivating these units for the fall semester. All funding currently expires on January 17, 2022. We are currently reviewing the guidelines that we received last week and will be developing a spending plan for the available funds. Aside from the student aid funds that are restricted, we are considering to use institutional funds to support free credits for students that enroll in fall 2021. Enrollment has been on a decline for several years. In fall 2018, we had 2,078 students. 2019 was 1,979 students, and 2020, 1,796 students. This past spring, our enrollment dropped to 1,564. The college has recently been approved to offer an online educational program for an Associate of Science in International Hotel Management. This approval opens the door for future online education programs. However, in order for us to successfully do this, the college is updating its distance education strategic plan. This plan will outline the support needed for this program and its expansion efforts. We anticipate that this update will be completed in the upcoming months in time for the beginning of the fall 2021 semester. Despite the effects of COVID-19 pandemic, we recognized and seized the opportunity to reconsider some of our business practices. We expanded our efforts to digitize our processes, including online requisitions and applications for enrollment, electronic timesheets, direct deposits for students, and others. These efforts have allowed the college to benefit from cost savings and increased efficiencies. Who would have thought that we would take a bigger step out of the box and improve our efficiencies? I guess that's what happens when you begin to think of ways to do things instead of believing that we couldn't. I applaud my team for making these changes happen. There's so much more in store for Guam Community College in the upcoming year. We will see the completion of our renovated multipurpose auditorium and the expansion of the Forensics DNA Crime Lab by the end of the year. It is our hope that we will put out to bid and award the next project in the renovation and expansion of Building B that includes a Student Success Center, and shortly thereafter, the construction of the GCC Facilities and Wellness Building. We will be updating the facilities master plan starting this summer to guide us through the next several years in our capital improvement plans. As the college continues to expand our footprint, including the recent purchase by the GCC Foundation for the Workforce Development Center in Barrigada, I am reminded of the need to acquire some additional property to support further expansion for the college and its programs. With your help, we can expand the early middle college program and other regional training facilities. This summer, we will launch additional boot camps to support the training for ship repair, diesel mechanics, home health care, medical code and billing, construction technology, IT, survey technicians, certified nurse assistants, and HVAC. Our residents are depending on us to assist them in upscaling and providing training in critical areas that support our economic sustainability. We will also provide an exploratory opportunity for students in high school to avail of a criminal justice program. In addition, we will work to establish a career and technical criminal justice program for Tizon High School. I wish to convey my appreciation to Superintendent Fernandez and Senator Moylan for their interest in this program. GCC recognizes the importance of establishing this program to bring awareness to students of the need to safeguard their community and increase interest in pursuing this career field. From fall 2019 to spring 2021, a total of 619 high school students took advantage of the First Generation Trust Program, providing $500 towards their tuition for the first semester of enrollment. We are hopeful that more graduating students will avail of this opportunity to pursue higher education. In school year 2020-2021, there were 2,814 students enrolled in 12 GCC career and technical education programs. Currently, we are tracking 373 students to graduate with a certificate of mastery, certificate of completion, and 81 with a certificate of mastery. In addition, I would like to highlight a student from George Washington High School. He displayed interest and enrolled in the early middle college program at GCC in construction technology. Due to the current pandemic, he was not able to complete the remaining 2 classes needed to earn his certificate degree. Nonetheless, he is working to fulfill the remaining requirements and will be the first to complete this early middle college program. This past Friday, on May 14th, we conferred 258 associate's and certificate degrees, high school diplomas, and journey worker certificates. Our students were committed and persevered to complete their programs. Before I close, I am reminded of an unresolved issue that has been presented for several years: merit bonuses for staff employees. The college has continued to advocate for funding to pay out these balances accumulating since 2015. We currently have an outstanding accrual of $112,530.71 plus benefits. As I close my testimony this morning, I am assured that the $20,833,797 is a great investment in our people during these difficult times. Education and economic diversification are at the forefront of our island's recovery and sustainability. We are committed. We are innovative. We are Team GCC. Sudus Maasi for your continued support for our students and our mission.
Thank you, Dr. Okada. I'd like to recognize my colleagues that have joined us. We have Speaker Terlai, Senator Joanne Brown, and Senator Sabina Paris. Dr. Okada, simple question. Towards the end of your testimony, you've identified $112,000 outstanding. Is that included in your budget or no?
It is not a line item in our budget.
Okay, maybe we just need to do is include it then so we can settle that. 2015 is a long time. That should have been ended. Anyway, moving along. Let me ask you a few questions before I ask the oversight chair of your to ask questions. Just very simple. What are your preparations for reopening GC to face-to-face classes? Or are you expecting for it, and are you ready for it?
GCC has had face-to-face classes since January of 2021. Classes are available for students, or have been available for students who wanted to come in for face-to-face. And I would say that the campus is ready. We've invested a lot of time, effort, and money into ensuring that the campus is ready for reopening. It is anticipated that we will have a full-on set of classes and students on campus starting this summer and into the fall of 2021.
All right. Have you procured the majority of the budgeted supplies and equipment for the year 2021?
We have procured many of the supplies. We are still working on the air purifiers and replacing some of the air conditioners that have been down. So those are the two major components that we are working on right now, but we do have PPEs, disinfecting solution for the safe return to the classrooms, including the dispensers for all of the sanitizing gel in the classrooms.
All right, Dr. Okada, a total of 10.225 million of federal funds. That's what you received this year so far, right? Up to date?
That's correct.
Okay. You know, Dr. Okada, I'm trying to find questions. We talked already a couple weeks ago, so I'm just happy that you're in your 20th year of a clean audit. Maybe you're in the wrong agency. We need you somewhere else to help get the clean audit across the board. You know, I just say that. I don't say that to insult any other agency, but, you know, if the shoe fits, have a nice walk. Senator Amanda, the Oversight Chair, then following, you'll be followed by the Vice Speaker and then the Speaker, and then we would move along. Then I'll identify the next question, the colleagues that will be asking questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And we're certainly proud of the Guam Community College, the 20 years of consecutive low-risk auditee status, and really you're a model for financial stewardship for our entire government of Guam. So yes, please share all the secrets and the tips and tricks for all of our agencies. We appreciate the good work that you're doing, and it's been a very busy time for the Guam Community College. Congratulations to all of your graduates for 2021, and as you mentioned, the graduation that's also taking place today for the boot camp. We are happy to see the success of programs like these that are going to lift us out of this economic crisis and ensure that our workforce is ready to go, that we're building a very skilled and trained, competent workforce from the Guam Community College. So thank you very much. I know the chair asked about having it as a line item for your for the balances of merit bonuses, and I wanted to also ask if there's any other prior year obligation that's not listed in your budget as a line item.
No, ma'am.
Okay. And can you tell us what existing loans the Guam Community College has that are left to pay off?
The only loan the Guam Community College has is the $5 million from U.S. Department of Agriculture that currently supports the renovation of Building 100 and the expansion of the Gregorio G. Perez Forensic DNA Lab, crime lab. And that funding for repayment is actually through the contributions and appropriations made by this body to continue to support those payments. Mm-hmm. There are no other loans for the Guam Community College at this point.
Okay. And you mentioned a few new projects that we can be expecting soon. Will those require loans?
So we are currently going through the financial feasibility study for the wellness facility and wellness program, and we are hoping that we can avail of additional funding for the renovation of Building B, which is our student support services that will house a student support center, a student success center for our students. We do have some funding that can be used for the Student Success Center. We're just waiting for the final design so that we can make a determination as to whether or not we have to leverage. The wellness facility is going to be a loan that will be taken out by the GCC Foundation.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you covered all of my questions, and I mean, we speak often, so I think everything is covered in your testimony and the chair's testimony. I appreciate that. I did also want to mention for the record that this body wrote our list of priorities for the American Rescue Plan to the governor, and we signed off on a priority of the Guam Community College at $7 million to assist with your apprentice and training programs to help us through the economic recovery after this pandemic. And so we're hopeful that you'll also see those additional funds in addition to the federal assistance that you've received and you will continue to receive. Again, thank you everyone to the GCC team for being here today, and I look forward to continue working together.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Amanda. Senator Tina, do you have any questions?
Sidzus Masi, Mr. Chair, and Manana Sidzus. First of all, Dr. Okada and Chairman Arreola, on Dunkaluna Sidzus Masi for being here today and for literally presenting a lean, to-the-point request for stepping up to train our workforce. And even during a middle of a global pandemic, you guys have been doing really great. And looking at your budget request that was submitted, and based on my notes from our previous meeting, I want to commend you for the innovation approach to teach even while schools were closed, and your ability to maximize the resources made available to you. And as you both delineated all the programs that you're working on, I was going through, I was telling the oversight chair, literally 2.5 pages of questions, and check mark, they talked about it, check mark, this is done, check mark, this is going good. So my only 2 questions would be, first is, it is my understanding that GCC's retirement, I guess the government's contribution has increased from, I guess it's going to be from 26.97, which is currently happening now, to, I think it was mentioned at 28.32%. Are these numbers correct? And how will this impact your agency? And is that included?
So the amount that we have been asked to use in the development of our staffing pattern is actually at 28.5, which is an increase from the 26.97 currently. So based on that adjustment, the amount to GCC is approximately $200,000.
So is that included in?
Yes, it is included in our budget request.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that that was being addressed, because I know that that was a concern brought up at the previous meeting. Then also, I know that there was conversations in reference to building your satellite campus, and I know that working with you both, and of course the administration and land management, I know in the past administrations there was land taken away, and how can we move forward in helping you do it, especially since you've got all these programs going on in your expansion. How would you like us to see this vision or this projection moving forward from you folks?
So in the passage of the bill that returned the 314 acres to the original landowners, in the transmittal of that bill, there was some effort to identify some government property that could possibly be used by the college for its expansion efforts. Initially, I had worked with Monty Moffness, and unfortunately he passed away. And so we are, and I just recently submitted to the Department of Land Management the list of the real estate property that the college currently has as required, and then a request with the transmittal letter that we received to him to help us identify, this was sent to Joe Borja, to identify some additional property for GCC. In addition, sometime later this week, there will be a conversation about expanding GCC's training facility to include a regional training facility. And so after that meeting this week, I should have a better idea of how much land is needed for that facility and some potential areas that we can consider. So I will keep you abreast of those developments as they occur. I should have something in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Okada. Mr. Chair, I just want to share for the record, as I previously just stated here about this presentation being lean and right to the point, and I hope that we can assist in even looking at the additional requests that the director has asked for. And I just want to say thank you for taking the time to give us a very detailed presentation on your budget, and greater success to to what you folks do to educate our island residents. You guys are doing a superb job. Sainamasi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice Speaker. Turlai, do you have any questions to the panel?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to the excellent team at GCC, and congratulations again on your graduation, and to all the students who went through everything they did, to your faculty, and of course you, the administrators and staff who had to make it all happen despite the challenges. I also want to congratulate and thank you for when you received your CARES money, or the money for the students, that you were able to push those out, I think within a day, if I read the news release is correct. And I really want to thank you for that. That was really inspiring for all of us. So your budget presentation this morning adjusts your budget requests down from what we were reviewing. So I just wanted to know which parts of it you might have changed.
So the request that GCC had in our reduction of 185,849 really focused on areas that were included in the budget that could possibly be, or that could be charged to the CARES funding. And basically it was just to increase custodial supplies, networking equipment, technology devices for faculty to use for online learning, including multimedia resources and some laptops. And then we also had the instructional designer, which I mentioned earlier. It's in the staffing pattern, but it is an authorized expenditure under CARES because it helps to develop the distance education program. And then the only other piece is about $50,000 that we could possibly charge in the event that the increase in the insurance rate goes up, and for the first quarter. So in the current year, the insurance, so on October 1st, from September 30th last year to October 1st, the insurance rate went up about $200,000. And so that's now in the baseline budget for the college. What we don't know is what is the anticipated additional increase because of COVID in the upcoming insurance rates. And so there is some amount of money in here that we could possibly charge to the CARES funding for that insurance. And so that's basically it. The $51,217 really is the amount that we could charge for the electronic equipment and laptops and custodial supplies. Approximately $84,000 for the instructional designer position and $50,000 for the insurance. And so that's the $185,000 that I reduced.
Okay, so this current request will still take care of any increments that are necessary throughout the year?
That's correct.
All right, and then the governor's budget was only 19,765,970, but this is just a little bit over that, so I'm just assuming there was something she missed. But the power, the utility rates, I noticed they went up in in this request, and I remember last year we talked with you about, you expected savings through your renewable energy programs, and I just wanted to see if that was still on track or if that has changed.
Yes, so several sustainability projects have been ongoing on the campus, and so the 2 buildings that are coming up now will have photovoltaic panels on them as part of the LEED certification requirements. And so we will then have 4, 5, 6 buildings that have photovoltaic arrays on its rooftop. And we do have 2 additional photovoltaic projects, which is the barrel vault canopy. So we have a canopy that has PV panels on them, and they actually provide the lighting for the walkway. We had one completed last year, and we have another segment that will be completed in the upcoming month.
Well, I'm asking, yes, thank you. But because the water rate or your projection for it is a huge increase, like 155%.
So what's happened in the past is that when the budget is presented to the college, there's a certain percentage of the total GCC budget. A portion of it is being charged to tuition and fees revenue that comes in. And so in this particular case, in order for us to balance the budget in terms of tuition and fees because of the declining enrollment, we had to move some of the power to the Gov Guam budget.
Okay, all right, that explains that. And all right, so the Governor's CARES report ending in April 2021 detailed the GCC only received about $169. Is that accurate from the CARES?
So when we submitted the request, the information that was requested was what did GCC spend? And so that's what we spent. It wasn't anything that was what we projected. And so that's the reason why we submitted expenditures of $169.20. And we've since been reimbursed. But we have been able to access some of the disinfecting solution through Homeland Security. So there are 5-gallon containers that we've been getting from them and refilled for the disinfecting gels for the classrooms.
Okay. So we estimated, or we put a plan together for the use of the ARP money, and we put in, as the Senator Shelton said, the about $7 million for GCC. Our hope was that that was going to go towards increased training, and I want to congratulate you again on your successes in this. When you saw the change, that this has caused to the employment rates and the tourism industry, you really did take the lead and put on many programs to help train, retrain, upskill, and also to let the community know what types of training are available. The workshops, the seminars, the webinars, those were excellent. Thank you for that. But so if the $7 million is granted to GCC, will you be able to use that in addition to the money you are currently receiving for training, such as the H2B fees and, of course, any budgeted amounts? I guess the goal is that if the PUA is not extended, that those who are continued to be unemployed will be able to be, change skills or change jobs, and that to be reskilled, and that we would be able to give them a scholarship for the training and perhaps a stipend so that they can receive some income while they are being trained.
I welcome any funding that is available to be provided for individuals to access training programs. We are fortunate that the foundation acquired the additional training facility in Barrigada, and so we're going to start using that facility sometime, I think by the end of this week. And so just excuse my explanation, but I think we're going to have boot camps on steroids.
Great.
Because it's going to be an effective way for us to get individuals trained. But we're going to be recruiting a lot of folks to help us with those training programs as well.
Wonderful. I really do have hope in your successes in these programs because you've proven them in the past, and so we trust that with additional money towards GCC, we really will get the results that we're hoping for. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And in your last comment, you mentioned, or to the other senator, you mentioned a regional center. Could you just explain what regional center and whose request was that?
There is some discussion about a regional law enforcement training facility. And so, like I said, I have a meeting about it this week, and more details will follow once that meeting commences.
Okay, sure.
But this is something we've been advocating for several years.
Yes.
And I've been working with our federal partners to recognize that the expansion, so we had a program many years ago, I'm sure some of you may have remembered, where we brought out folks from the region for marine terrestrial conservation. So it was folks from the region that came to Guam, and they collaborated with the different entities here on Guam on marine terrestrial regional training. And so we're hoping to expand that and provide additional resources to our neighboring islands in training and development.
All right, thank you again. Thank you again to all of you, and good luck in this upcoming year. Very good news to hear that you're ready, completely ready to go back to your face-to-face, and even as early as this summer. So congratulations, and thank you again. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senator Moylan, do you have any questions to the panel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, first question to the chairman of GCC there, Mr. Arreola. First, I appreciate your report. Must be always good to give something so positive, you know. It really shows the efforts of the Board of Trustees and the teamwork with GCC, so I thank you for that, sir. I'm interested on the boot camp, the second construction trades boot camp. Specifically, we're talking about the truck drivers and the critical shortage in commercial truck drivers across several industries and wholesale distributions and constructions. I'm supposing a lot of that, since our industry on tourism has gone down, but still our construction continues, and a lot of that probably has to do with the military activity going on. But if you can help just expand a little bit more on that, of
Sure.
what the industries have come to you, saying what they need and what they project within the next coming years, please.
You know, I believe that we started the boot camps. The Guam National Guard came to us. You know, they were having a whole bunch of soldiers returning to Guam without a job. And so they met with Dr. Okada, and we came up with this shortened plan. And there were 6, 7 different occupations that we helped get certifications. And so that kind of told us that the industry, you know, partnering with GCC, we give the education, the employers give the on-the-job training, has worked very well. Some of the boot camps, we actually have the employers sign a contract that all of the individuals that pass the boot camp will either jump into an apprenticeship program or be hired right away. So to answer your question on the truck driving, it's across the board, whether it is dump trucks, tractor trailers, and I believe the latest was to pull tanker trucks, the fuel trucks. So it really, the boot camps isn't developed by us. It's actually a partnership with the industry. They come to us and they say, man, one of the things that we need to be careful about is the military is shopping our graduates. So this is why we come to you for additional funds to really, you know, upstep and upskill our you know, population. And the great thing about these boot camps, some of these individuals that take the boot camp have never worked or never worked in a particular industry. So we're actually helping them to understand how to work with an employer and then look at ways to progress so that they can have a career. So it's been very successful. But to answer your question, it's been across the board, whether it's pulling trainers, but I think this next one is tanker. Yes. Hope I answered your question.
Thank you. Yes. Would you have an idea on the average pay scale, the starting pay scale for those types of skills?
That's a good question.
I think on the recent truck drivers, some of them were offered at $15 an hour. But because of the limited supply, because we just finished 11, I think there's some competition going in terms of who's going to offer more. So I did hear $15 on this last truck driving. On the ship repair, I'm not quite sure how much they started at. But we can get that additional information. We have a completion ceremony today for construction technology, and some of them have already been or started working, and it is potentially all of these students will be picked up before the end of the week.
Thank you. Additional information not required, but I appreciate that. It's really helpful to know, because we know PUA will be coming to an end, and with the boot camps that GCC is doing and the good paying jobs that it's providing are opening up, and the demand is there for competition. So I appreciate all the work you did on that. Thank you, Mr. Arreola.
Thank you for
Dr. Okada, just a couple of questions for you, please. I do see the enrollment, as you reported, going down, but in actuality, your funding needs are still very reasonable considering the enrollment, the ones that are paying for the classes. have gone down. I'm just wondering, is there a critical number that you may have to consider if it goes below a certain number? I don't project that happening. I think more students will be coming to GCC. But at the numbers we're at now, you seem being able to manage it quite well. So I'm just considering, is there a critical number, like if it goes below certain enrollments, then we may have to reconsider something and come back to the table?
Yeah, so just remember that there, as I mentioned, we have about 49 faculty and counselors that are in the high schools, and the high school programs is at 2,800, a little over 2,800 students. Even though these numbers are post-secondary, these are reflective of fall semesters. So the boot camps actually have been supplementing the enrollment because boot camps are not necessarily enrolled in a degree program. These are full-time students that are enrolled in a degree program at the beginning or towards the beginning of the semester. These numbers are usually determined on a fall-to-fall basis, and in the spring it usually is a lot less. When the jobs are available, enrollment usually goes down. When jobs are not available, our enrollment usually goes up. And so it kind of rides with the market, but now because there's a lot of training opportunities, so the boot camps now have helped to supplement the enrollment that's there. We don't anticipate, and so one of the considerations that we've been contemplating is, should we offer some form of free college using the funding that we have recently received? And so we're reviewing the requirements right now on the CARES Act because the guidance came out May 11th. So we're looking at that now to see if we can offer something to help boost enrollment at the same time. So right now we're not too worried about the enrollment because we serve two environments. We serve secondary, post-secondary, and then we also serve adult education and all of the continuing education programs, which is where the boot camps reside.
Thank you very much. Then for my final question, Dr. Okada, you mentioned also the programs for career and technical and criminal justice at the Tejan High School. And we were in discussion with that as well, and prior to the pandemic, and we saw the difficulty our students are having to try to get into the peace officer careers. If you can just expand on that a little bit to help us understand where are you at in the development of this track program and why you feel there is a need for this?
So there's a couple of things. One is in our grant opportunity, there's always a chance for us to offer exploratory courses. And so we will offer this summer as an exploratory course in criminal justice for students that want to pursue career and technical education that may not have been able to do it during the academic year. Sometime this summer, we're going to have individuals write the curriculum for secondary. And I will tell you that even though we've had this discussion for a couple of years, it really shed light the other day when I was in a GDOE meeting on health and safety, when you hear about all the break-ins on campus, on the different campuses. And so one of the opportunities for high school students is to create a cadet corps of students that can help police and help educate other individuals on the need to safeguard their campuses. And so because of that conversation, it's twofold. One is to examine the career in law enforcement, and the second piece is really to help students bring awareness to students about being alert, being observant, and being role models in terms of safeguarding their campus facilities. And so we hope to have that to begin the begin the development of the program this summer, and we might be able to launch as early as next academic year, or this coming academic year. So we're gonna eventually transition into a full-on program, but there might be a way for us to start it already this academic year. So we're working towards that goal.
Thank you very much, Dr. Okada. Thank you, Team GCC. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Moylan. Senator Torres, do you have any questions, ma'am?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to congratulate all of you on a very stellar presentation to the Office of the President, Office of Student Financial Affairs, Planning, and especially the Board of Trustees for your guidance and vision. I had a question about your mention of free credits for students that enroll in fall 2021, utilizing the institutional funds to support. Can you elaborate on what the mechanics of that free credit entails?
So what we are anticipating is if we were to offer anywhere from 3 to 12 college credits using CARES funding, then students would be able to enroll in GCC, and it would be in the form of a scholarship through the institutional funds. We can't use student funds that we've been given for it because those are direct student relief or student aid. So we're thinking to use some portion of the institutional funds to offer free credit, anywhere from 3 to 12 credits, and we haven't really decided yet. But if we use the current funding, it would only be available for 1 semester. Right now, we are rebating or refunding the amounts for their technology fees, so there would be a small amount that the student would have to pay in order to enroll or register in a program.
Would this also include high school students that apply to get credit, college credit through GCC, or is it specific to people enrolling for degrees with GCC?
It would be for students that are enrolling in the post-secondary environment. Right now, students in the high school have the opportunity in the DCAPS program, which is dual credit articulated program. So when they graduate from high school in a career and technical education field that has a DCAPS agreement, students can earn anywhere up to 19 college credit depending on the program. And that doesn't cost them because the courses, the post-secondary courses are actually taught in high school. And so what they do is they complete their courses, they receive a B or better and complete 180 hours of work experience, then they earn a certificate of mastery. Certificate of mastery translates into college credits upon graduation.
Okay, so it's a little bit different. That's wonderful. I'm very encouraged by your discussion also in your testimony about this upcoming year expanding the forensic DNA lab. We know how that has a direct correlation to solving crime on Guam, to charging people for crimes on Guam. But I wanted to ask, who do you expect who will fund this expansion? Is this also tied into a payback, for example, with the courts and the traffics, or is this, I'm just curious about the funding that you anticipate for the expansion of the DNA building, or DNA lab.
So the DNA building is already under construction, and the funding to repay the building, the loan on the building is actually through the Guam legislature. We've been receiving the funds. And it's an agreement and an MOA between GCC and GPD. So GPD will secure the one portion of the building, and there's a classroom and a laboratory for the GCC side. And we are currently working with GPD to procure the equipment needed for their side. And there's some funding that has been identified for them. So we're assisting in the procurement of all of those collateral equipment necessary. It is not our intent to charge GPD for the use of the facility. They would just have to pay for their power and their water. And so we'll enter into some agreement on the regular maintenance of that portion of the building with GPD.
I want to ask you, Mr. Arriola, one of the challenges that we have on Guam is the processing of rape kits. And I know that is a sensitive issue because we understand the incidence of sexual violence on Guam, the prevalence of it is high. Will this forensic DNA crime lab have the capacity to process those locally, or is that something that you're also considering with GPD and how to create a program that truly will benefit not only GPD but perhaps the AG's office and just in bringing justice to sexual assault victims?
We'll go ahead and write that down, Madam Senator, and we'll respond to that. I'm not 100% sure if that is actually as part of the scope, Dr. Okada.
So it's our understanding that GPD will use it for DNA testing and serology testing. So that would be a function of the Guam Police Department and their efforts to provide that service.
Okay. But perhaps it is something that we can look into, because I know that that is an issue in terms of backlog and rape kits that don't really go anywhere and
Okay.
probably could. But Sis Mas, I just want to congratulate you again on what a wonderful program that you've got going on, but most especially for your vision and your advocacy in addressing issues that have an immediate and direct impact on our community. I think that that's quite remarkable. Sis Mas.
Thank you, Senator Mary. Senator Chris Reines, do you have any questions, sir?
Tidus Masi, Mr. Chairman, and to President Mary Okada and Chairman Frank Arreola and the support team that's here this morning, welcome to the legislature. And thank you first and foremost for the meeting that we had together. And I want to join my colleagues in really congratulating GCC for presenting a budget that's appropriate but also cognizant of the current times that we're in and the uncertain future. Although things are looking up, we just appreciate your diligence. I'm not sure if the chairman decided to put GCC first to set the benchmark, but I'm glad he did, because we're going to be able to use you as an example going forward of really excellent stewardship of our resources. And of course, with GCC being Guam's workforce development leader, without question, boot camps on steroids. I'm going to remember that one. I actually wrote it down. So President Okada, I just have two questions, because first one is contained in your testimony, but before that, speaking of the budget and all the training opportunities we've been discussing, I just think it's appropriate to see if you can elaborate on possibly I'm sure you're continuing to sit on the Workforce Investment Board with Department of Labor and the demand-driven careers, really the pairing of that requirement and request to the continued programs that you develop. So I just wanted to ask you if that's a continued partnership and update us on it.
Yes, absolutely. So we work really closely, especially in establishing all the different varieties of boot camps so that they can record them on their Higher Guam. And as students or completers enter apprenticeship, it's very important for us to partner with Department of Labor that help to lead individuals into journey worker certification.
Excellent. And then I also, as you mentioned in your testimony and your work with our colleague Senator Moylan on the continued development of criminal justice, and of course there is a recent bill introduced by my colleague discussing the Post Commission and that establishment of minimum salaries, qualifications, and of course all the Post Commission's requirements. I just wanted to see also is GCC continuing or working with the Post Commission on that development, and also just an update on your law enforcement training. As we know, we also have legislation for increasing law enforcement officers, particularly in police and customs areas. So I just wanted to ask you any developments in that area.
So I have been tracking the discussion regarding the Post Commission and the request to have them conduct a salary study. So in the event that it is needed for that salary study to be done, GCC can actually issue out the request for professional services so that the study can be conducted. One of the things to note is that there's actually two different types of pay scales. One that has been done by Alan Searle, which is done by for the Port Authority, Guam Water Works, the airport, GPA, and GPA. This company also did the salary study for our teachers. And so in the event that you want to have a salary conducted, it's going to be important to have all of those studies, in addition to what was done for Hay, the Hay group, to be in order for it to be uniformed, because you don't want to take down the salaries of those that have the independent study, so you want it to be consolidated. But in the event that the college needs to assist in helping with that request for, that put out that proposal for professional services, if the funding is provided, that we can also assist the post-commission in doing that as well.
That's excellent, because that actually came up as part of the question in terms of, how we would work the bill going forward, and I'm sure the chairman's happy to hear that, because that's a key component, so excellent work, Mary.
And then one of the other option is because we do have a position in the GCC budget for the post-commission executive director. And so instead of creating a position at the time, we use the position of program specialist. Now, in the event that we need to create an unclassified position for that seat, then I would just have to work the mechanics to do that and then request for the appropriate funding to support it. Right now, because before Chief Bob was assigned to DOC, he was doing it on a contractual basis as a retiree because we didn't have the authorization because it's a classified position right now. But if we need to create an unclassified position, then I would just need to go through those mechanics to establish it accordingly.
Excellent. Well,
and then the final thing is we do have a police academy right now that should be done by next week. The supplemental academy that has been delayed should be completed by next Friday. They have one final class to finish. And then we are anticipating a late start this summer for another supplemental academy. We're just working through the requirements now and identifying the adjunct faculty to teach another cohort.
so how many currently in this academy?
20? There are 19.
Oh, nice. Half a cycle that we're proposing. Excellent work, Mary, and so I'm really done with my questions, but like I said, once again, I join my colleagues in just really recognizing all the excellent work you're doing up there, and boot camps and training on steroids. That's it. It's official. Jesus Masi, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Chris. Senator Tony Abbott, do you have any questions, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam President, Mr. Chair, thank you for coming down to this morning to present your budget. Congratulations on your clean audit. And I think it's important to know that over the years that I've sat here in this body, every time you come forward to present your budget has always been lean and very, I think, straightforward what you needed to operate. And it goes to show that, once again, when you're able to make a reduction in your budget request, that you've done so. And I think that what you've done with the programs and the boot camps is just amazing. It goes to show that the people of Guam can count on the Guam Community College to ensure that if they want to get a different trade or things like that, go to different programs, that they can do it right here on Guam, right at the GCC. But most importantly, Madam Chair, Madam President, Mr. Chair, over the years you have done a superb job with your team in improving the campus at GCC. I think all the buildings practically are all brand new, and I think you just got one or two that needs to be it's already in progress, right? So of all the millions and millions of dollars that you have saved the taxpayers of Guam in your creative funding for these buildings or through grants and things like that, I don't see why not we can't support your budget, your adjusted budget of $20,833,797, in addition to taking care of your obligation to the, with the benefits of $112,530.71. I will work with, the oversight chair, Senator Shelton, and the budget chair, Senator Agustin, and doing what we can to ensure that you take care of that. I mean, it just goes to show that when you have leadership at the table that takes care of what needs to be taken care of with the least amount of money from taxpayers, that we need to go to continue to support those type of institutions and programs and the leadership that stands there, not just for the students and the people of Guam, but also the faculty and staff. So once again, thank you so much for being here today, and you have my full support on your budget that you have requested here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tony. Senator Tello, do you have any questions for the panel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Okada, thank you so much for being here this morning with an excellent, thorough presentation, as well as Chairman Ariola. I appreciate it. And the ladies that are here supporting, because they always say behind a good person is a great staff. And I'm glad you recognize that too, Dr. Okada, about your staff at GCC. I know they work hard to get you to where you are today. And I'd like you to let them know I appreciate that very much. But I greatly appreciate the fact that you take the time to meet with each and every one of us senators to sit down and talk about issues. Some agencies don't even do that, so as long as I've known you, you've always taken that time to do that. And I'm glad to hear that when we talked last, I was concerned about the insurance, the issue of the funding for that, not knowing how much more premium that you have to pay, So you're okay with everything right now? It's already in the budget with regards to the premium for health insurance for your staff?
The health insurance is based on the current rates. What we don't know are what are the new rates that will be effective October 1.
Right. And have you taken in we come across this every year because it's so late, for the budget to decide how much funding is needed for every agency when it comes to health insurance premiums. Have you assessed a percentage maybe of, for inflation to try and assess that and incorporate that into your budget?
We did not on this particular one. So in addition, one of the areas that, and I have to take a look to see if we did it, but on the vacancies also account for medical insurance for individuals that are not, for positions that are not currently filled. So it's hard to determine if the person's going to be a single or a family plan. So I would just have to take a look. I think we budgeted it at the medium or at the mid just so that we have something, and then we would just rely on in personnel lapses to cover the difference if necessary. So in the event that there is going to be a significant increase, which we probably estimate about 25 to 30%, we would, because it's not included in this budget, we would have to rely on personnel lapses to cover that shortfall.
I see. Okay. Yeah, it's a kind of a balancing act that you have to do every year, and if it gets bad, I'm pretty sure you'll come to us right away to cover any shortfalls. There was also a bill recently introduced regarding having to incorporate certification pay differential. I'm sure you're aware of this legislation. What is the amount that you're anticipating for something like that?
So when that legislation was enacted several years ago, somehow GCC was left out of that legislation. So basically this legislation is just to get us included. We don't have any staff currently pursuing any of those certifications, but it's a good professional development for them, especially in our accounting office, for them to consider as an incentive for them to pursue the certifications. But we don't have anybody currently that is pursuing, so there is no current fiscal impact.
Okay. Dr. Okada, you know that the ARP funding that's been spoken about for months now, and now we come across the opportunity for Guam to also avail themselves of some infrastructure funding that's coming our way. So just I'm pretty sure you're aware of that, and I'm hoping that GCC, you're growing very well. I know that you live within your means. You try to live within your means. So if you're going to expand the campus of GCC, you're going to do that, financially with some backing. So just FYI, it's coming down the pipeline. Please, I'd hate to see GCC be left out when it comes to infrastructure funding coming to the island. So also on the licensed practitioner nursing and vocational guidance program, how much funding have you set aside for that particular program in this budget?
I think think it's all consolidated. So one of the requests that we have is just to request for a lump sum, because if we get the lump sum, then as we recruit individuals, that piece doesn't just get smaller because of all the increments. And so, for example, if the funding has been available for 4 vocational guidance counselors, and right now we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 nursing faculties. So it's 5 nursing for the LPN program and 4 for the vocational guidance counselors. And so over the years, the funding has actually been set aside almost at the same amount every year, but it doesn't take into consideration the additional increments that they get. So if we were to receive a lump sum budget, then it would just be a total allocation instead of a separate allocation just for that program.
And I know that last year you received about $727,000 for the nurses program there. So I was just wondering if there's any possibility of increasing that funding amount.
If we increase the amount, that we could hire more faculty to support practical nursing, but this is currently for the positions that we have.
Okay. Okay, the other one is, many of my colleagues asked so many of the questions that I had to as well, that there might be just one more. I noticed in your testimony, I think it was brought up earlier, but I just wanted to verify your school, your enrollment at GCC. And it says here in your paragraph on the second page, I believe, or school year 2020 and 2021, there are 2,814 students enrolled in 12 GCC career technical education programs. On the page 2, you have here that in the fall of 2018, then 2019 and 2020, 1,796 students. So you're seeing a decrease in students in GCC, the enrollment. And if so, what do you think is the issue? I know COVID is a big issue, but we're getting a lot of funding and grant opportunities for students as well as scholarships being issued out. Are you seeing a decrease?
So we are seeing a decrease in enrollment, but one of the things we're also going to be launching fairly quickly, they're working on it now, is that if the individual family situation has changed, they actually can go into financial aid for consideration for financial aid. So in addition to being unemployed or underemployed, if the family contribution is a lot less, there's an opportunity for them to access Pell Grants. And so we're going to be doing some community outreach for individuals that would like to come to school or come to post-secondary education and access federal funds, in addition to the funding that we just got relief for, CARES funding. So as I mentioned, the first round that we got, we gave out 440 for full-time students. The second round was at 600, and given the current expiration of the grant funds, we have $2.7 million that is specifically just for students, so it can't be used for anything else except student relief. And so we're going to have to put together some additional programs so that we can utilize all that funding that has been available.
And then my last question, Dr. Cotto, has GCC looked into having a daycare facility at GCC to allow parents, single mothers, single parents to actually avail themselves of a daycare facility while attending schools, if you're opening up to the campus?
So many years ago, when I first started, many years ago, GCC did have a daycare facility, and eventually it became cost ineffective for us. There has been some recent discussion with daycare providers for us to have a program. Right now, we just don't have the facilities to do it, but it's something that we can consider, because not only students from GCC for post-secondary, but also those in the adult high school program have some challenges associated with daycare, which is why they're not enrolling in the high school program. It's not something, as we update the facility master plan, we can consider it, but we often get the request, but it would be more beneficial for the college to enter into an agreement with daycare providers that are nearby, because there are several, and for us to enter into an agreement with them instead of standing up our own facility.
And is there any funding available for those particular students, grants provided for them to assist?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much again for all your hard work.
Thank you.
God bless and stay safe.
Thank you, Senator Tello. Senator Joanne Brown, do you have any questions, ma'am?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Certainly good morning to Dr. Okada and to Chairman Arreola and all of you from the GCC family. I certainly appreciate the fact of your testimony this morning and the chairman putting the Guam Community College first in the agenda for this year's budget. I do appreciate the initiative of Dr. Okada. I know as she reached out to me, as you have to other members of the legislature, to go over the details of your budget, so I'm not going to belabor going through that this morning. As mentioned by our other colleagues, I mean, GCC continues to excel. Continuing to have clean budgets, 20 years is unprecedented in the government of Guam, and that's certainly something we'd definitely like to see our other government agencies strive towards. Certainly under your leadership, Dr. Okada, we've seen the continued enhancement and improvement of the programs as well as the physical infrastructure at GCC, and every opportunity we know that you have to pursue other grant funding outside of the government of Guam, you've done so. You certainly set an exemplary example. So I don't have too many more questions, but I do just want to ask you to elaborate, because I'm very pleased with the fact that GCC moved in January to get your students back on campus and back into the learning environment. And that seems to be a struggle some parts of our government, particularly our Department of Education, has been having this past school year in facilitating in-class learning environment for our students. So I just wanted to elaborate how you put that in place. And do you have 100% of your students that are enrolled at GCC attending classes on campus, or is there online classes that they're attending, or what the case may be? Because it's something at least we are very happy to hear that GCC was able to move forward with, in spite of the challenges certainly that we've encountered with this pandemic. But I'd like to know the GCC story of how you collectively were able to move forward to get your students back on campus and back into a direct learning environment.
So following the Department of Public Health and Social Services and the CDC guidelines, we established the reopening plan for GCC. And basically for the spring semester, we gave the option to the student whether or not they wanted to come into class or whether they wanted to continue online. So for all of the post-secondary classes, we provided the education synchronously. So in other words, if you're scheduled for 6 o'clock, you can either come in for your 6 o'clock class, or you can do it virtually at 6 o'clock. And so by doing that, students didn't lose any instructional time for any of the courses that they took. Now, there were a few courses, like the Criminal Justice Academy, for example, that had additional limitations, so we had to delay. Nursing, same thing, because of their contact. And so we've not had many students come to campus at all, but what we did was, if the course was to be taught face-to-face, the faculty were there so that they can deliver in case a student comes in. And we've been encouraging students to come into campus so that they can feel some sense of return to the GCC campus, because when when the restrictions are relaxed, we didn't want a mad rush for the door for everyone to start coming in. We wanted them to eventually ease back in, which is why for the summer semester and the fall semester, we will be, there's a limited number of classes that will be online, but for the most part, they will be face-to-face. In the event that the classroom capacity is limited, what we developed was the mirrored classroom concept. So we bought technology to service 2 classrooms that can be used for 1 class, where the class is actually broadcast into the other room, but the faculty member can facilitate on both sides of the campus. So we've been programming or scheduling courses that exceed the capacity for the classrooms for overflow. And so that's how we're able to do it. We have the benefit of having classes during the day and at night, so usually around 4 o'clock is when it gets really busy, but we have outlined each classroom based on the capacity of the 6-foot social distancing. We are hoping that that gets relaxed to at least the 3 feet so that we can bring more students in and not have to do too much of the mirrored classrooms. The staff and the administrators have actually been back to the campus since June, and it's primarily because the campus was closed and we had for the most part, individual offices, and so we brought everyone back because it was easier for us to facilitate all the things we needed to do when people were there than for us to do it remotely. It was just a lot of monitoring that we had to do when we were doing it remotely. So we just brought everyone back onto campus. And so setting the example for our students that for the whole time that the administrators and the staff were there, none of us tested positive or had any case. So we set the example for the students, letting them know that we're comfortable going into work. You should be comfortable coming into school.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your explanation with that, and continued success to the Guam Community College. I mean, if we had a little more comfort in seeing the rest of the Government of Guam agencies run as efficiently and just a sense of responsibility and extra effort, certainly in the time of your leadership there as well, Dr. Okada, because you've been there a number of years, and that's been actually a very good thing. You certainly set the example for the rest of the Government of Guam. Very pleased with your presentation. Thank you. I know that collective success goes to your staff as well and the members of the faculty at the Guam Community College, and congratulations for your continued success. With that, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Senator Parrish, do you have any questions to the panel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to Dr. Mary Cotta and the panel that's here today. And I know this has been a long road creating this budget to present it before this body, and I do appreciate all your efforts. And like I said in the past, I very much appreciate the lean budget that you produce every year. And I know that a lot of that we see the effect that it has, the positive effect that it has in diversifying our economy. And like my colleagues, we are looking to this institution to be the leaders as you have been in doing that. And looking forward to the American Rescue Plan, what we see this money going towards, more sort of infrastructure and equipment, and less so in the personnel, which has to be, it's subject to the next budget cycle. So, looking at your staffing, do you see that this budget can absorb any increases to the diversification should the monies be used to expand and diversify our economy? Can this, I know you have in your budget about 199 staff. Do you foresee that as being sufficient?
So right now, because the boot camps for the most part are being taught by adjunct faculty, we rely on individuals to help support the training needs for our students. As we start to grow programs, the college basically, our whole budget process is based on assessment. So for us to increase the number of individuals that we have in any particular department, we have to have the assessment to show that we really need it and that it can be sustainable. So we don't want to just do an expansion without having the long-term effects on GCC and helping to build the program. So we usually start off, if it's faculty positions, we start off on bringing in limited term appointments, and then after a year or a couple of years, then we'll permanentize the position. As vacancies become available, we try to do the same thing by hiring limited term appointments. That's not the same thing for staff and administrators because they're on the classified, they're on unclassified. But again, everything is done based on assessment. So we don't want the assessment to be skewed just because there's a big need right now, because we're going to expand as we need, but we also need to be able to contract when the times get tough. And so we're very careful on how much we expand in terms of increasing staff.
Appreciate that response, hence the clean audits. I guess the other question, do you have any vacancies currently? staffing vacancies?
We do. I think we have about 11. Some of them, so we have the position for post that is open right now. The associate dean we just hired, so that's no longer available. We do have a position in construction trades. We just hired the instructional designer. I want to say we're probably down to about four vacancies, but we're currently recruiting for them.
Okay,
And then we
thank
have
you.
some in the non-appropriated fund that is funded out of the NAF, a different funding source for some faculty.
Okay, thank you. I know these jobs are very coveted to work for GCC, so can't imagine these vacancies being, long. So in regards to the limited term employees, do you see that can come out of the American Rescue Plan because it's not a continuous type of expenditure?
It could. So what we are considering right now is because of the increased procurement that we are considering to bring in another buyer. But I would really prefer the funding to be used to support training and programs as opposed to hiring more staff. Because you bring LTAs in, right now the funding is based on the current grant documents, expires in January. So January of 22, so that's not very long. So we would prefer to use the funding for additional technology, equipment, and support for students to get the money out faster.
Okay, thank you. In regards to the 2021 budget, are there any lapsed funds or funds that, I guess, per quarter have you been able to expend all the funds?
So far for our 2021 budget, we have been able to use our funding.
And I noticed in your budget that you've actually requested less for contractual services. That's really good. But I just wanted to, if you can provide any information in regards to costs for the management information systems. Are you seeing a steady expenditure in that, considering that we've been relying more on online automation, digitization? Has the cost been relatively even, or as you see a trend?
So for MIS, it's pretty steady because several years ago we moved our processes to the cloud. So this is basically continuing to support the cloud infrastructure that we have. And then right now we're doing the distance education plan that should be done in the next couple of months. And we also are doing our institutional technology strategic plan so that we can upgrade our infrastructure. We recently did an upgrade to the campus in putting air fiber so that we can solidify some of the internet connectivity, and we're working on increasing our capacity for wireless on campus to support the students coming into campus and the use of the Wi-Fi. So we have funding separately for that.
I believe the Biden plan, it does have money that goes towards that. So that could also be part of the, I believe the American Rescue Plan, if not maybe the subsequent infrastructure bill. So.
That's correct. And we do have redundancy on campus, so we have multiple providers so that at any event that the campus or one line is down, that we're able to switch it to another line so that we have continued connectivity.
In regards to the solar panels, so do you have any contracts on that one? No. Is it a contractual thing, or is you purchase the panels outright?
We purchase them outright.
Wow. Okay, great. And that's another thing that could potentially be funded by, I think, the rescue plan or maybe the subsequent bill. So I don't know if that's maybe some adjustments that potentially can be made with the budget. But yeah, so I think those are all my questions, and I do appreciate all the efforts. I know it's been a long road for you guys, and definitely looking forward to collaborate and partner with GCC in diversifying our economy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Paris. Dr. Okada, Mr. Chairman Arriola, thank you for your participation today. My colleagues have concluded with questions. This budget hearing will now conclude. The committee will continue to receive testimony please address your written testimony to the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing, and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. Sanausin at gmail.com, or to my office located at Rand Care Building, 2nd floor, Suite 3, 761 Marine Corps Drive, Tumuning, Guam, 96931. And Sidzus Masi for attendance and participating in today's hearing. And for those at home, thank you for watching. The budget hearing on Bill 55-36 CR relative to the Guam Community College is now adjourned. It is now 10:36. And Dr. Carter, congratulations on your graduation. I hear you have one today. Please take care.